Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. After just a couple hours of sleep, we're back at it with the post-draft coverage. This next video is about the Detroit Pistons after they drafted Killian Hayes. Uh, there's numerous first-round picks here. Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, and Saban Lee. There's a lot of action going on here with the Pistons, and I will let you know what I think about all of their draft day moves. However, before I get into this Pistons post-draft stuff, I want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate all the support, so it helps me, and you get more NBA content, so it helps you. It's a no-brainer. Just go for it. Leave a like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. Let's start with Killian Hayes. I think that this is probably the right pick for them. He wasn't the highest guy on my board at this point. I liked Tyrese Maxey better, but he obviously wasn't going to go here. But I did have Tyrese Halliburton rated higher as a point guard. So, you could call that into question, but I think that the Pistons needed to take the guy with the higher upside, and Killian definitely has that. If he can continue to develop his ability as a playmaker, ball handler, and especially improve his shooting, I think that there's a chance that he could be a solid lead guard and a top 40-ish player in the NBA. The thing with him is that I don't think that he's very athletic, and I don't think he's going to have the necessary burst in order to become the type of penetrator weapon that you need for him to be a really lethal primary playmaker and primary attacker in the offense. So I have questions about him that way. And I'm not really sure if his shooting is going to come around, and if it doesn't, then I don't know. He's probably not going to reach his ceiling of like a D'Angelo Russell type player, but I also think that he has a pretty high floor and is probably going to end up being a starting point guard in the NBA. No matter what, it's just a matter of whether he can become a really good starting point guard or just a replacement level starting point guard. And right here for the Pistons, I think this was definitely the right pick because of the upside, their need for a lead guard, and the other people that were on the board. I think the other guy that they really liked in this draft was Patrick Williams, and he shockingly went fourth to the Bulls, so he wasn't even here for them to take. So once again, I'll repeat myself one more time. They made the right pick. After that, they got a little weird. Traded, I think it was like a future first that has insane protections on it. It's like top 16 protected for 4 years, top 12 protected after that, top 9 after that. It's really weird. And then it becomes 2 seconds finally. Mostly this trade was just a salary dump for the Rockets from what it seems to me, and they had to give up the 16th pick to get it done. I don't love Isaiah Stewart getting drafted that early. I think that there was probably better options on the board for them, but it's clear that they like this guy. He's a solid option at the center position. I think that his game is going a bit out of style, but apparently he's super high character and is going to come in, work hard, and continue to improve. He's got a really nice 7'4" wingspan, I believe, so that's going to help him in the NBA a lot. And if he can continue to improve his shooting and become a big man who can space the floor, there's a chance that this is a solid pick. Finally, they traded Luke Kennard to the Clippers. The Clippers traded Landry Shamet to the Nets, and the Nets traded the 19th pick to the Pistons in maybe the only 3-team trade of the day. I can't think of another one. So with that pick, they selected Sadiq Bey, a wing from Villanova. Bey was the highest player on my board available for a while outside of Tyrese Maxey, but like I said, I wasn't expecting him to go much higher than like 18 to 20, and he actually went 21st. But I thought Bey had a chance to go in the lottery. He didn't. He fell all the way to 19, and the Pistons cashed in on that drop. I think that there's a lot of value there with Sadiq Bey. He's going to be a pretty prototypical 3-and-D wing. I think he's probably going to shoot it in the high 30s from the three-point line, and he's a versatile defender that can guard multiple positions, which is super valuable in today's NBA. On offense, I also think that he has some potential as a playmaker, and if he can continue to improve there, he's going to be able to do some playmaking duties from the, small forward position, and that's always super valuable when you have a wing that can take some of the ball handling away from the guard. I don't think that Killian Hayes is the type of guy that necessarily needs that, but I also think that he will benefit from playing off the ball a bit alongside Saddiq Bey if that's something that they are interested in. And Bey profiles as a really good 3-and-D wing, and that's the type of player a team that's looking to win needs. I don't necessarily think the Pistons are looking to win, but I do think that Bey is going to be a pretty good NBA player, and I'm excited to see what he can grow into. I think this is a good pick for the Pistons. The last guy they took yesterday, I think it was in the late 30s, so like 38. They took Saben Lee, a guard from Vanderbilt. Don't know much about this guy, but I'm pretty sure he has an unpolished offensive game and is a good defensive player, really good, and pretty much a defensive playmaker, forces a lot of steals and keeps people in front of him well, is a bit versatile, can guard up a couple positions. But he's really got to improve his jump shot if he wants to be an NBA player. Like I said, this is mostly what I remember, but I haven't watched too much on this guy. So don't take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, I'll say that much. 38 is an interesting place to be taken. I don't know if he ends up being a guy on a two-way contract or if he gets a guarantee. In the late 30s, I think he probably gets a guaranteed contract, so that would bring the amount of players they have under contract to 14 if you include the non-guarantees of Kyrie Thomas and Justin Patton. So that would only leave one free agency spot for them to fill, and quite obviously they would like to fill that with Christian Wood. They also acquired Tony Bradley from the Jazz when they traded for that Saben Lee pick. Bradley is not my favorite player. I thought that he did a pretty poor job for the Jazz in the playoffs last year. And he's a solid big guy who plays okay defensively and is just really, really big. So maybe he ends up being something with Detroit. He was a first-round pick just a couple of years ago. So they did get some extra value when trading for that 38th pick. But back to Christian Wood. They should be looking to keep him around. I think after drafting Isaiah Stewart, I'm a little less sure because it was the 16th pick. You might be ready to hand this guy the keys as the starting center for your team. So maybe Christian Wood, they do let him walk if he receives a large offer sheet. Anything above 4 years, $60 million, I think could be considered pretty large for Christian. And I think that this is probably pretty promising for the for the Charlotte Hornets, because they might be able to lure Wood away from Detroit, and I think that that's something they should really look into doing. The Pistons, I think, should probably keep around because this team is just lacking for young talent, although the infusion of Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, and Saddiq Bey is definitely promising. But if you have a guy who's shown to be as talented as Christian Wood, capable of scoring 20-plus points per game, you got to do what you can to keep him around. So I think that unless the offer gets too big, like I said, 4 years, $15 million could be a deal breaker for them. But anything under that, they could look to keep him around. And this is all speculative, but I don't think that it's as important as it was going into this draft. They also did get Bradley, like I said, so they have two guys that were first-round picks in the past 3 years and play the center position. So if they let Christian Wood walk, I would say it's forgivable. Outside of that, let's see. I'm looking at their roster, trying to figure out what they need to fill in. They have some solid wing players: Svi Mikhailuk, Saddiq Bey, Trevor Ariza, Tony Snell. Kyrie Thomas is on a non-guaranteed, so if they pick that up, he'll add to that wing depth. He didn't play much this past season, so I don't know much about him. But he's still pretty young and perhaps is a developmental guy that they could continue to work into an NBA player as he improves. Justin Patton's a big guy that I don't know anything about, but from what I've seen, he's not all that good. So maybe they don't pick up his non-guarantee. If they don't pick up those two guys, then I guess there's probably the biggest need for this team would be on the wing. They have the guys I listed before. Sekou Doumbouya can play the three a little bit. Zanim Musa can play the three. So, I mean, they really don't need help on the wings. I think signing a third point guard could be a good idea. Someone like Raul Neto could be an option as a good defensive-minded guard coming off the bench. Outside of that, I can't really think of those really cheap minimum type guys. Maybe you keep Brandon Knight or Jordan McRae around for the minimum, just as someone who can play off the bench for you and help out with mentoring a guy like Killian Hayes as their lead guard of the future. Derrick Rose will probably also play a role in Killian's development, but there's still a chance that he gets traded. I don't think it's very high now that we made it through he made it through draft night unscathed, but there's still a chance. I think that this is a really nice place for Killian to fall. I don't even think I talked about that, as going to a team where he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot is a really good option for him. I think that we could see him create a really fun pick and roll type game with Blake Griffin if Blake can stay healthy. That could be super exciting, as Hayes is a decent playmaker and Blake Griffin's obviously one of the more monstrous athletes we've ever seen in the game. Hopefully Blake is healthy. But Sadiq Bey, solid wing. Isaiah Stewart, solid big guy. Overall, I think the Pistons did a pretty good job in this draft, getting Hayes where he probably should have gone, taking Stewart a little early, taking Bey a little late. But this roster is definitely better than it was going in. They got 3 first-round picks, so they have some talent to start rebuilding around, and I think that they'll be an okay team to watch because of those rookies. Now it really just comes down to Christian Wood and whether or not they bring him back. Like I said before, I think that either way is definitely a viable option at this point. If I were a betting man, I'd say that he's coming back, but I wouldn't be super confident about that bet either. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Did the Pistons nail these picks, or do you think that there's a different route that they should have gone in? Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. That's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all again very soon.